I'll let you guys know when we're live. Okay, we're ready to go. I'll let you guys know.
We're all ready, Steve?
Yes, we're good to go.
Okay. And it is, make sure it's 5:30. It is. Okay, welcome everybody. I'd like to welcome you to our special school committee meeting Monday, February 14th, 2022. This is a virtual meeting. If you'd first please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence for our troops in harm's way. And I don't know if we're going to have a flag posted. I don't see a flag posted.
We'll post it. I can try to pull one up quick.
All right. We'll wait for a flag posting here real quick under PSD conference.
Yep. Let's go here.
Almost.
Yeah, almost there. Oh, come on.
You can only stand up so many times.
Right on, right? Full screen. Save as an image. Perfect. Desktop. Okay. I'm gonna have to share my screen. You know what? I can just switch my picture. I'll share my screen.
Steve, I'm not seeing anybody else. Did we let everybody in?
Everybody's in.
Yep. It's a live, remember it's being viewed on
Oh,
YouTube.
gotcha.
Yeah. Let me just share my screen. Hold on, Heather. I gotta get the picture. Darn it. Sorry, I wasn't ready for that. Image. Okay, beautiful. Now, if I can share my screen. Exit that out, share again. Continue. All right, here we go.
All right, there we go. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence for our troops in harm's way. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So in case you're tuning in and you're wondering why we are having this special meeting, we promised at our last regular school committee meeting that should the governor, excuse me, make mask mandates removed before our next regular school committee meeting, which will be March 8th. Remember, we canceled the February 22nd meeting as it was over break, that we would call special meeting to discuss and vote on the mask policy in order to ensure time for preparation and to get the word out whichever way it went. That we're having this meeting this way tonight. It was the only way with everybody's busy schedule that we could have it before spring break or before February break and ensure a quorum. Superintendent has to be on for a town council meeting tonight. I know another committee member was coming from a different meeting and work. So I'd like to thank everybody for their flexibility in making this time work. And I hope you thank your spouses, significant others, etc. as well, because it's Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day. But I'm glad we're able to get this meeting in. So we have one item on the agenda tonight. This is the policy EBBA. May I have a motion, please, for discussion and action on policy EBBA?
I'll move, Fred Ferber.
Second.
Second, okay. And I have to apologize for a second. I jumped right to the business agenda without doing the official roll call. Please let the record reflect that all 6 school committee members are present virtually. So we will be doing a named vote today because we are virtual. So I've had a first and a second, and now I'm going to call the vote on this. Mr. Payero?
Are we doing any discussion or we're going straight to the vote?
Just to vote. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Sorry. We had the move to discuss that and second it. So, oops, my bad. I'd now like to turn this over to Superintendent Kenworthy for him to present his recommendations to the committee. You're right, Carlos, that would have been bad just to have a vote, not know what we're voting on. What are we voting on?
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. So as you know, Governor McKee has announced that the executive order mandating masks in all Rhode Island K-12 schools will expire on March 4th, 2022. This will mark the first time since the start of the pandemic that schools will be in session without a statewide mask mandate. The decision before the school committee now is to determine the course of action that Portsmouth will take after March 4th. And in anticipation of the executive order expiring, I have been asked to review state and local case data, research other district policies, and consult with our school department attorney in order to make a recommendation to you this evening. The following represent my recommendations on changes to our district masking policy that would take effect after the expiration of the executive order on March 4th. So I'll read those to you now. The highest priority for the Portsmouth School Committee is the health and safety of all students and employees. The Portsmouth School Department strongly recommends that individuals follow the guidelines of the Centers for Disease Control, CDC, and Rhode Island Department of Health, RIDO, regarding masking for students, employees, and visitors in school settings throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. These guidelines recommend that all individuals should wear a mask in indoor school settings, regardless of vaccination status. Individuals should refer to the CDC recommendations for the proper selection and wearing of masks. In the event of an unanticipated change in circumstances related to the COVID-19 pandemic within the Portsmouth School Department, the superintendent may take any immediate action deemed necessary to ensure the health and safety of students and employees until such time as the school committee has the opportunity to offer advice and consent. Any emergency health order from the state of Rhode Island or executive order of the governor regarding masking in schools shall supersede this district policy while in effect. Any federal or state order related to masking on public transportation shall supersede this district policy for school buses while in effect. This policy will go into effect as of March 7th, 2022. So to summarize, these suggested policy changes once the executive order expires, to summarize these suggested policy changes once the executive order expires, the Portsmouth School District would strongly recommend that all students, staff, and visitors mask indoors, but not require it. As superintendent, I would have the ability to institute a temporary measure, such as full masking, if a case outbreak or unforeseen situation occurred in a classroom, school, or even the entire district, until such time as I have the opportunity to bring any further recommendations forward to the school committee. Moving forward, any executive order regarding masking would supersede this policy without requiring us to make any changes to the policy while that order is enacted. The same thing would hold true for any state or federal order related to school buses, and all indications are that the federal order requiring masks on all forms of public transportation, including school buses, will remain in effect for the foreseeable future. Lastly, the executive order mandating masking in all K-12 schools is in place through March 4th. This policy would go into effect as of March 7th. At this time, I'm happy to take any questions from the committee.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Kenworthy. I want to give each committee member a chance to ask a question or make a statement. And our attorney is on the line as well. If anybody has any questions of Attorney Carroll.
Well, I have one question. Now we have the data on how many kids have gotten COVID, staff members, but do we know if any of them actually ended up being hospitalized?
I am not personally aware of any students or staff members who have been hospitalized throughout the course of the pandemic related to cases. That's not to say it might have, something may have happened that I'm not aware of, but nothing that I am aware of personally.
Thank you, Mr. Vadney.
I
Mr.
would,
Ferber?
we can, obviously we can continue the discussion, but I personally would make a motion that we adopt the superintendent's recommendation. I mean, safety being paramount and a constantly evolving situation with respect to the pandemic where we think we're at a state where we can allow this. Hopefully that remains the case, but you know, it's really always been about the safety of not just the children, but the parents, and everybody that might come in contact with an infected individual. But I think in the light of changes right now, this is a reasonable policy to take. So I personally make a motion to accept it.
Okay, so I have a motion to accept. I know we still need other people to give their comments, but when we have a motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Ferber, seconded by Mr. Vadney. Ms. Kelly, I saw you had your hand up for a comment.
Yep, I just wanted to weigh in. And I just want to say that I can appreciate that people are done with COVID and they just want to get back to normal. But as the mother with 3 small children, I of course want that too. This has been extremely difficult, almost 2 years. But I'm not really willing to do that at the cost of their health. And unfortunately, our vaccination rates for school-age children are still relatively low, especially at the elementary level. And our community spread is quite high. Checking the RIDO dashboard today, it was almost 300, and 100 cases per 100,000 is the acceptable threshold for high transmission. I'm not opposed to making masks optional in the future. I'm just not confident that now is the right time. I've also heard a lot of requests for mask choice, and I don't believe that's a viable option for protecting our children because there are numerous studies showing that one-way masking is significantly less effective than universal masking, especially among children who are too young to wear proper respiratory protection like N95s or KN95s or KF94s. And so taking all of those into consideration, I'm not comfortable recommending that the mask mandate in schools be removed and would vote to not advance the new policy.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Kelly. Was that a hand, Mr. Payero?
It is just like every moment I try to speak, craziness ensues. I have a brief statement. I was going to make a much longer one, but for the sake of time, I know we have a bunch of other things. I just wanted to make it very clear that today is not a win for either side of an argument that probably should have never become political. So just to put in perspective, this committee, and this is not for us, but more for the public, this committee and district has done everything from the very beginning in order to lead with science and do what we thought was best in the name of public health and the benefit of our entire school community. Today, this is probably one of the very few times that we're going to take a step I don't wholeheartedly agree with yet. We all want this to stop. We all want this to end, to return to a sense of normal. But we are moving into the stages of an endemic. And we have to learn to live with the virus. But my hope in general was that we would have had a little bit more time in order to be able to do it so that we can know what our playbook was going to be. And I don't mean any pun intended to what the statewide playbook actually is about this. But I'm also grappling with the fact that We as an entire state have now removed the mandate. And we are unfairly and unjustly also singling out children with their own mandate. I think with that just in mind, parents, teachers, and staffs, if you don't want your children to mask, or if you don't want to mask yourself, that's your prerogative. We respect the fact that you want to do that. But I think also the one thing that we need to say is that we also need to respect the family that is not ready to unmask. And we need to make sure that we're creating a respectful location for everyone to continue to learn in Portsmouth and not dive into these rhetoric issues that have basically plagued our actual society over the last year and a half. So although I will be voting the way I will this evening for the amendments that are being proposed, I hope that we also say yes to treating each other better moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Piero. Ms. McDade, I think I saw your hand raised.
Yes, I just want to echo a lot of what Mr. Piero was saying. Since the beginning of this issue, I have certainly paid very close attention to all the emails we received, all the studies that have been referenced. I've done the research, I've followed through, I've read every post, I've followed every link to the actual research. And throughout this pandemic, my guidance has primarily come from the leaders in science, in medicine, and in education. In other words, the CDC, RIDE, certainly the governor's executive order, were things that I felt comfortable following. And as Mr. Piero just said, at this point, I am willing to continue to follow the guidance of the CDC and RIDE, even though, again, I'm going to keep wearing a mask, at least for a little while. But I certainly support the idea that the time may have come to make that optional. And as Mr. Piero said, I think it is absolutely critical that our schools remain a place that is safe for people who continue to choose to wear a mask, and as well as those who don't. So that's where I stand.
Okay, thank you, Ms. McDade. Let's see, Mr. Vadney.
Well, first, I would like to confirm this with the superintendent, that this is strictly about making masking optional, and that all the other COVID protocols remain in place: social distancing, lunch arrangements, reporting requirements, etc. And I think everyone should realize that. See, my problem with the masking is that as someone who's supposed to be part of a high-risk group, I can, go to a shop, go to a restaurant, go to a movie, no problem. But members of the lowest risk group, our children, are it's almost like a punishment. To me, I think it's just too much. It's just too much caution. Our kids, I think, are a bit, as a group, sturdier. The science, we're always talking about the science says, they're not really that affected by the COVID. Yeah, there are kids who have gotten sick, and over the last 2 years, they have kids that have died from it. But as a group, they're the lowest risk group. And as we are keeping the other COVID protocols in place, I think it's only fair for the kids, for those kids who don't feel that they can wear a mask all day, should have the opportunity to have that option.
Thank you, Mr. Vadney. Dr. Kenworthy, there was a question to you.
Yep, I can definitely confirm to Mr. Vadney's question, all other mitigation strategies are staying in place.
Right. I think, Mr. Ferber, you had a chance to make your remarks earlier, right? Just
Yes.
didn't want to, okay. I think I'll say my piece, like Ms. McDade and Mr. Piero and Ms. Kelly. I sort of feel like this is a little early. I think, I wish the governor would have kind of kept it on through at least mid or end of March until we were really getting into spring and open windows and, hopefully seeing the peak even go down. I do know the district was already thinking about, lifting some of these things. So while it's maybe a little premature, I don't know if it makes sense to vote against it. I will support the superintendent's recommendations. I think we're going to have most districts in Rhode Island doing that as well. There may be a few that don't. I am glad, however, that we have the clause in the policy that will allow a mask mandate to be reinstated should conditions arise. I think that's an important safeguard and one that, we will take to hopefully ensure the best health of the district. So having said that, any further comments, questions? No? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to call the vote by name as we are online. So you might as well all unmute here. So a vote aye would be in favor of the new revised policy. A vote no would be against the new policy. And if the no vote wins, that would mean we would continue with mandatory masking policy, right? Okay, Mr. Piero,
Aye.
Mr. Vadney,
Aye.
Mr. Ferber,
Aye.
Ms. Kelly,
No.
Ms. McDade,
Aye.
Emily Copeland, aye. The ayes have it, 5-1. And I think I really appreciate everybody's very thoughtful remarks. And I know this isn't an easy decision to make, but I'm glad that we're able to have this discussion so that people know where we stand come March 7th. So having said that, can I have a motion for adjournment, please?
So moved. Fred Ferber.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Ferber, seconded by Mr. Piero. I'll call the vote. Mr. Piero,
Aye.
Mr. Vadney,
Aye.
Mr. Ferber,
Aye.
Ms. McDade,
Aye.
Ms. Kelly,
Aye.
Emily Copeland, aye. The meeting is adjourned and our next meeting will be March 8th. And this should take place at the town hall, assuming everything's done. It will be a full in-person meeting at that point. So thank you very much. I appreciate you giving up a little bit of your Valentine's Day and hope you have a good evening. And some of you I'll see at the town council meeting. Good night.
Good night.